Now, to take it to the other receiver that was talked about, Diontae Johnson. Big question right now is, do you extend him? Because we know what the reports were that, the money he was looking for was double digit. And we know people brought up the numbers. It's like, oh, yeah, man, you look at his statistics and you look at other guys that have gotten paid. Yeah, that's on par with that. But my question is, do you feel that he is the bona fide number one receiver? Because if you're going to pay him that, you're expecting that from him. Or do you say, you know what, we're not going to pay you this offseason. We're going to allow you the opportunity to prove that you're a true number one receiver. And if you do,
yeah, you guys franchise tag him.
Right, you can always tag him, absolutely. And that's the thing that I'm thinking of, like, why lock him up, in a deal where you might be potentially overpaying him, and a year from now we're like, bro, this isn't what we thought it was. Because the big difference is, granted, we've seen him with Mason. We saw him early in his career with Mason. The expectations weren't the same. People weren't looking at him the same in terms of how they guard him. Whereas now, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more attention. The expectations are a lot higher. And when you're talking about double-digit money, we don't care who's at quarterback. We want you to be the guy. And I just don't know if he's that right now, minus a Ben Roethlisberger, because we haven't seen him be that type of player without Ben just yet.
Yeah, even though that was rookie year, I think it is fair to say, like, let's just wait it out, see how he does this season with Mason at quarterback, whoever we have at quarterback, and see what he does. The downside to that is he balls out, and we could have had him on a cheap contract, like when Steph Curry signed with the Warriors before he blew up. That's really, with anything. That's the plus and minus you got to weigh out.
Is it really a bad thing, though, if he proves that he's a legitimate wide receiver one? Because my thing is this: did anybody complain when we started to pay AB? When AB was that guy in the league, when AB was the clear number one receiver in the NFL, we never complained about having to pay him. We never complained when we said 2 years.
Never looked at his contract once. Right. Never cared what his contract was.
It was like, give him more money. It doesn't matter. Give him even more money. It doesn't matter because he was proven that he was the wide receiver one. He was proven that he was worth every single penny. But right now with Diontae, we don't have that. Right now with Diontae, regardless of what the numbers tell us, what did your eyeballs tell you late in the season last year? That play was taking a little bit of a hit. So regardless of what a number might say, we know what we felt when we watched him play. We know what we felt at times, when we thought that he was struggling. I don't necessarily want to commit a ton of money to a player like that, knowing that we're going to have a transition at quarterback, and we don't even know if he can be a guy that elevates the quarterback play. You know what I mean? Because like an AB, we know that, man. AB, he elevates guys. We've seen that. But at the same time, he still needed a guy at quarterback. It was a difference when Landry was out there. It was a difference when Dobbs was out there. It was just different. So with Diontae, that's the part for me where I'm just like, man, do you necessarily have to do that deal? Do you have to extend him this year? Because like I said, if we didn't know what he was looking for already, I think it's different. But he already didn't put that number out there, or at least his agent
15,
did.
Right? It was 15.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to pay 15.
No. But the receiver market seems to be inflated right now. But we already went all over this because because the market's inflated, that doesn't mean we have to make that decision too.
And no. We could be the ones who reset the market.
No, 100%. I am starting to look at some of these contracts. We went over some of the guys that are getting paid in those teams. It's like, bro, why the hell would you do those contracts? Almost back to the running backs whenever we were paying, or Bell wanted like 15, 16, ends up getting paid 13 by the Jets, David Johnson, Todd Gurley. No, those contracts are terrible. And you're even seeing that with Zeke right now, too.
Yeah.
So I get your point in waiting on Diontae. Then you have the option to tag him after next season. But if he does prove to be that receiver one, then you could just maybe pay him a couple more million more than that 15. Maybe it becomes 17 or 18. The thing I worry about is if he does ball out, just contract-wise, because you're right. At the end of the day, if you ball out, I think we're all happy.
It's a great
I just worry long-term.
Yeah,
this is like 2 or 3 years down the line, so maybe it's not even worth talking about. But if he balls out and then he wants a contract in like the 20s range, maybe the market gets too crazy. Yeah. You see some of these contracts they're talking about with Devontae Adams. He wants that, where it's like, bro, we ain't doing that. But like, 16, 17, 18, that feels a lot better, especially if you prove it last season that you can be that receiver one. You got rid of the drops, whatever it is.
Yeah, now I would definitely agree with that. Now, what do you make, though, when we talk about how in the past we would say, what, man, you don't have to pay these receivers. Think about what we did with Mike Wallace. You got to let Mike Wallace leave so you can, just bring in your next AB. Then you draft the next guy and then the next guy. Well, in the past, yeah, that made great sense. But in the past, who was at quarterback? We had Ben Roethlisberger. So it didn't matter who was at wide receiver. You could take a Sammy Coates and make him look great. You could take a Kobe Hamilton and win games. You could take guys that necessarily weren't high-end talents and get the most out of them because you had a force multiplier at quarterback in Hall of Famer Ben Roethlisberger. But right now, we do not have Big Ben. So every time I think of, oh, man, we'll just draft the guy. Man, we always draft wide receivers and we do it at a high level. That's not a guarantee anymore because when we were doing that, we had a quarterback that was proven, a legitimate franchise quarterback. And right now, we don't have that guy. Even if we're talking about some of these guys that we could go and get in free agency, we'll talk about in a second. They're not even proven to be that guy just yet on a consistent long-term basis. So I don't think we could just hang our hat on, oh, yeah, man, we always get good receivers in the draft. They'll just come right in and play, just plug and play. Don't pay anybody. That model doesn't work to me anymore when you do not have Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback.
Yeah, that's why we got to find a guy.
Yeah, man.
That's my thing. We got to find a guy because I don't want to be going through what people talk about in the 80s and 90s after Terry Bradshaw. I don't. Seriously, like that sounds like that model sounds terrible to me. Yeah. Am I wrong? That model sounds terrible to me. To that we're that reliant on a receiver. It's like, oh, we really need this receiver. But my question, can the quarterback get it done? What's the point? What's the point of signing a receiver for $15 to $20 million if you don't feel like your quarterback can get it done in the playoffs?
Absolutely.
That's why it's like, bro, we got to be all in and trying to find this franchise guy. Now, right now, we are in this weird space. So, like, we got to give ourselves a year grace period because I think we're going to have a lot more answers to that question at the end of the season. Yeah. We should at least. Like, because then we'll know. Mason, no, we got to move on. And then you go all in the draft, free agency, whatever it is, to try to find that franchise guy. Yeah. Like, I just don't want to be waiting around flailing like the Vikings with Kirk Cousins and all those type of situations that have always belabored my I guess my displeasure for in these past couple of years doing the podcast. I do not want to be in no man's land. I do not.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Now,